What is good, Counter-Strike fans? Welcome back to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today, we're talking about the last event of the year, the Budapest Major 2025. We're going to be talking about specifically Stage 1. Very interesting, excited to watch, Counter-Strike for about a month, some of the top teams, facing one another for the biggest prize of the season. And yeah, sorry that I'm getting this out so late. I mean, it's only under 6.5 hours before the event starts, so I'm gonna bring you coverage of the whole event, the fantasy implications, the pick'ems. So make sure to tune in. Hopefully, we'll be getting it out. Getting it out. I mean, a little bit more time before 6 hours, but yeah, just trying to get this video out for all of you to enjoy. If you can watch it, if not, then we'll see you for the stage 2, with a little bit more time in between. Like a little bit more time to actually enjoy the video. But yeah, let's take a look back like we always do at the last event, which was the Blast Rivals. And I did poorly. I mean, I went Shiro and Tessis instead of Jakinder and Yuri because I wanted to go differential against what people were picking, Furia mostly. And it bit me in the butt. And I mean, obviously, now Furia are the favorites for the major, and they've been the best team of the second half of the year. And yeah, I should have gone with them. Instead, I went with Shiro, who did fine himself, but Spirit did really poorly. And Tessis, who, again, did fine. But again, Falcons got destroyed by Furia in the final. Only 4 points for my standings, top 58, so not great. And the league that we have for our community, I fell back a little bit more. I mean, we now have an extra person in the community league. If you are interested, make sure to check out the description down below with the link. I'm hoping for more people to join, and if more people join for next year as well, I'll give out a prize for the top performer or whoever wins the league. And so yeah, if you're interested, make sure to join. But yeah, as you can see, Cash Lag is right now top of the league with 148 points. So it's gonna be tough for most of us to catch up, but it is possible. We just gotta make sure that we put in the best team possible each time. Because I believe the major will be split up into 4 to 5 different fantasy events. So there's time still to top the league. And as for our fall season standings, 128 points, 1,698. I don't think we'll be pushing for top 10 at all anymore, but I'm still hoping to get within the top 1,000. And yeah, I think that's the goal again for the rest of the year, to get the top 1,000. Now for the major, if you are interested in just getting a quick preview of what the major and what the stage is about, make sure to check out this article, which I will link in the description down below. It's an HLTV article by Nero, who does these amazing articles where he basically gives a preview of each team for each stage. And yeah, things like, for example, with these like visuals where he gives you like the roster, recent event results, the current trend for HLTV ranking points, their best maps or their map replica, I guess, and a couple more charts of how the players are or what type of roles they have. And yeah, you can use this for both fantasy, for your pick'ems as well. And it's a great summary, honestly. So yeah, if you are interested, make sure to check it out in the description down below. It's a great article. It's not too long either, and you can probably, take a look at it to either influence your pick'ems or influence your fantasy picks as well. Another thing to take a look at is this image. It was in the r/global offensive Reddit. And this basically gives you the pick'ems for your favorite content creator, your favorite analyst, commentator, CS pro, and yeah, basically you can take a look at this, see what everyone else has picked, what the most popular 3-0 picks are, what most popular 0-3 picks, what teams are people think are primarily going to go through to the next stage. And you can use all this knowledge to base it off your either your decisions for your pick'ems. Yeah, because I think like as a community as a whole, the whole community can't be wrong about certain teams if they get picked quite often. So I think this is a good resource to use. You can either again check it out on the r/goal offensive community Reddit, or you can pause the video as I scroll, and you can check out specific, CS influencers, or like I guess like pros or analysts, what their picks are. But enough about that. Let's talk about my pick'ems. Again, if you do the pick'ems, you have to get 5 correct for each stage. And yeah, I'm trying to go for as many as possible. And I will tell you if there's certain choices that occur quite often, because I've done the simulator a lot. So I know what teams usually face each other in what stages, or like what like type of games they face each other, and who has good seating, who has a bad seating, stuff like that. So gonna base it off about that. But really quickly, I think for my 3-0 pick, my first one I think is Legacy. They're very consistent. They had great results in the second half of the year. They upset some pretty good teams, and I think when everything's clicking, they're the most consistent team. All 5 players can pop off. Yeah, I think they are probably my safest 3-0 pick to go through, and their seeding is great as well. They're the first seeded team, so they shouldn't face many tough teams on their way to a 3-0 advancing. For my first 0-3 team, it will have to be NRG. I think NRG were in consideration for 0-3, but I think once the news came out that Nitro will have to miss most of stage 1 or all of stage 1 because of the birth of his child, and Dabs, their coach, has to stand in for Nitro. I think that swayed me to put them in 0-3. Usually you want your IGL, if you had to pick a player to miss out, it would be your IGL, and then having your coach standing in is not the worst. I just think while Dabs is a fine coach and I think he could IGL them, I just think Nitro actually does have a little bit of firepower that he does bring to NRG, that I think Dabs can't replicate. And I just think the NRG roster was already, not to say poor, but they just don't have enough firepower to match some of the teams in this stage, and especially in BO1s where something like someone popping off can get you a win. I just don't see it with this team. I only think Bro's the only one that's consistent enough to do so, and I'll just have him in 0-3. I think Dabs will be too much of an anchor, rating wise, that I think they won't get through to. I think they'll go 0-3 for sure. For my next 3-0 team, I think it will be FaZe. I know that everyone's saying that FaZe, will probably lose a BO1 or a BO3 along the way, just because it's FaZe and they just never do good enough in the major where they just clean like 3-0 their way through a stage. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of like conversations for other 3-0 teams, like someone like Bait, Gamer Legion. I would say the other couple teams that I feel comfortable going 3-0, maybe even Paravision thrown in there. But they all have question marks as well. Like all these teams have question marks. Bait probably has the least amount, but they don't have the upside that someone like FaZe does. I think Twist, Frozen are the best 2 players in this stage by far, and they should do good enough to carry them. And then Brokey just needs to wake up, and he likes playing these type of teams. He likes to farm these type of lower rated teams. So I think FaZe will do fine, and I think they'll go 3-0. And then for the next 0-3 team, it was between Rare Atom, Hans, and Red Canids, and maybe a Fluxo as well. I think I'll eliminate Fluxo. I think their team is solid enough that I think they won't get 0-3. I think their seeding as well is good enough that they'll probably face one of these other teams before the 0-2 matchup. I think a lot of times what I see is that NRG face Red Canids and Red Atom face Huns quite often in the simulations that I've done. So if you wanted to go for only 5 correct pick'ems, I would definitely like double up on someone like NRG and Red Canids for 0 and 3 because you'll at least get one right, or you know, at least for sure get one right because they will face each other a lot of times in the 0 and 2 matchup, or double up on the Rare Atom and Huns, because at least you'll probably get one right as there as well. But everyone speaks always about never picking an Asian team to go 0 and 3. But I think this time around I will pick an Asian team to go 0 and 3, and it's between Rare Atom and Huns. And I think I'm gonna go with Rare Atom being the 0 and 3 team. And I will say this because I think they switched out one of their players for an assistant coach. Well, I think it's the first Taiwanese player at a major. He's a 33-year-old player that doesn't really have a lot of HLTV, or I guess he doesn't have a lot of matches in HLTV. So not excited there, just to accommodate another player for better roles. So yeah, I don't know. I just think there's something about Rare Atom that I'm not feeling for this stage. I mean, it could be Huns as well. And Rare Atom has beat Huns and has a better record against Huns. But I think Huns will come through in this stage. And I think they'll at least win one, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. So that leaves us with our advancing teams. I think Bait is a pretty strong team. They're really solid, and they're not great at BO1s, but they're really good at BO3, so I think they should advance. Next will be Gamer Legion. Actually, I think Gamer Legion probably a little bit higher. Probably they will go through, but I like Gamer Legion as well. Whereas PR and Tossin should be a strong enough rifling core for them to do it, even if they have Hypex as their opper. And Ash is a good enough coach that they'll definitely make it through this stage. Team as well as Paravision, James, and 5 rookies, or 4 rookies, I mean. 3, HLTB considers 3 of them rookies, and one of them is a first time major. Well, I think all 4 of them actually, other than James, are their first time in the major, so it's gonna be very interesting to see. But they have had great results so far. And we've seen this type of setup before, where James takes basically 4 proven players and takes them very far in a major. I mean, they even won a major, but James has a 4 major winner, so I think this team has a lot of potential. The only thing to be aware of is that they don't have a lot of LAN experience, and they are considered the onliners for this event. But I think they'll do fine. Usually young CIS players have a lot of firepower, so I think that's what we'll see with them. My next pick will be Fnatic. I think Fnatic, it's gonna be interesting. I know a lot of people aren't too sure about them because they had really poor results recently, but I think Blamef, Yambo, and the Ukrainian core that they have now should do fine enough here, and I think they will get through. And they're a great BO1 team as well, so they could jump to a 2-0 start, and they just have to win 1 BO3 out of 3 chances for them to make it through. So I could see that happening with someone like Fnatic. Next will be NIP. Again, recent results haven't been great, but I think the team is strong enough. I mean, X-Kaspersky is probably one of the best players again in this stage as well. And you just need someone else to step up. Yerks, Renko, Shush. They all have a lot of experience as well in the majors. And Snappy is a great IGL who can, do better than the core of their parts. And I think that their team is decent. They just need to find their form, I would say. I think they will for this stage. And then finally, the final choice has to be between Lidvision, M80, Imperial, and FlyQuest. Personally, I am not feeling this Lidvision squad. They don't really impress me sometimes. I think sometimes they do really well, and sometimes they do really poor. It's just really inconsistent with Lidvision. FlyQuest, again, they're a little bit more of the consistent team. and they do play some solid Counter Strike. But it's like, who's gonna be the guy to step up for them? Is it gonna be Nedic, JKS, Regali? So I'm not sure about FlyQuest. Imperial as well. South America hasn't been great recently. In recent events either, or other than Furia and Legacy. They're the only two teams that I like from South America that have done quite well recently. So I'm gonna go with M80. I mean, I know I'm an NA fan. I think M80. I have to have one NA team going, so I think I'm gonna go with M80. Their seeding is not great for them to do well, but I think they have just enough to get through, and I do expect someone like Lake, Slacks, and someone else from like Switcher, Hex, or even Sin to step up and help them get through to the next stage. So it's gonna be my pick'ems, and finally we can finally talk about fantasy, and let's talk about the most picked players. So currently the most picked player is James. He's getting chosen about 30% of the time, alongside with Noda from Paravision. We also see a lot of people picking face players, so Twist, Kerrigan, and Brokey as well as the most picked. Lux from Legacy, Eskapersky from NIP, and CTR from Gamer Legion. And now finally we can talk about the players individually. So let's start off with FaZe, and you can see they are mostly gold players. I mean, most of them are overpriced, and that's gonna be true for most of these teams. The teams are more likely to go to the next stage. Their players will be a little bit more priced. So definitely take that into account, because while we do want players that probably go 3-0 or 3-1 for padding points, we also don't want to spend all our budget on these type of players who, might not perform to their value or their price, I guess. But for FaZe, I think Frozen and Twist, while they are quite expensive, I think they are great options. I think both of them will be the players to carry FaZe through, and they do get really high ratings. If I had to pick one of the two, it definitely has to be Twist, and I will only pick one FaZe player, honestly. I would not double up on FaZe. I think, for example, Kerrigan and Jacob are no-goes. Do not pick them. They will not live up to their price. Jacob's been kind of poor recently. Well, he's been poor ever since he's joined FaZe, honestly. And Kerrigan is, I think, the lowest rated player in this stage, or one of the bottom 5 lowest rated players. So I think 185 is definitely no go. So I think Twist and Frozen are great options. And I also like Brokey. I know Brokey was really poor last event. I think he put up a 0.6 rating, but I believe, and I truly believe, that this type of stage is where Brokey shines the most. He likes farming these type of teams, and this could be a bounce back for him as well. So that's for FaZe. For Legacy, again, all players are kind of overpriced. I think for Legacy, while I do expect them to be the favorite 3-0 pick, and the most likely to as well, I just think all 5 players kind of pop off too often that, at any game, it could be any one of them to be the one to be the best value, and then the rest kind of like, do fine, but they don't, have the highest ratings either. I think Dumao's not bad at 220 because he's the most consistent if you want to pick a Legacy player. Otherwise, I would pick like just the cheapest player in Lux if you just want to, pick into a Legacy player, honestly, because I think all 5 players will share the ratings across them as well. For Gamer Legion, I think you have to pick between Rest, Tosses, and PR. CTR and Hypix are no-goes. Do not pick them. Toss is still pretty solid value. I don't mind at 213. If he was a little bit cheaper, I would definitely go into him, but he does have more anchor roles now, and he's still doing really well as well. He's actually been their second best player more recently over Res. And then Res and PR, while they are very solid players as well, a little bit overpriced. I would pick between them two. I would say PR just because he has the highest upside. But Res is a little bit more consistent, I would say. But yeah, Gamer Legion, probably just pick into one player. For Bait, again, they're a little bit overpriced, and I think they will go to the next stage. So just pick into one. I would say probably Head Trick because he has the highest upside. So far, though, he hasn't done really well recently. But I think he has the highest upside of the silver players. I mean, MPL is obviously the most consistent and their best player, fragging wise. If you had to pick another one, I would say Essential or Alex. For Limbition, I would not go here, but if you want to go here, I would pick Westmelon. And then if you wanted to pair it up with someone, probably Emilia from Limbition. M80, there's some value here. I would say Lake and Swisher are the value players for sure. I think Lake usually is the type of player that can pop off and put up really insane ratings. So I like Lake, and Swisher's really consistent as well. He has a great like eco-friendly role as well. So if you want to look into that as well, you can. The only thing I don't like about M80 is their seeding. It's just a kind of poor seeding that just kind of leads them to face a lot of the tougher opposition. So it's gonna be tough for them. But I think if you want to go here, Swisher and Lake are the value options. For Fnatic, they did poorly their last event. Like basically everyone but BlameF. BlameF put up a 1.45 rating, so you know BlameF's gonna get his. It's just about them making it to the next stage, and if they do, someone like Blame could be the best value in the whole game at that price. So I like him. If you want to pair up with someone, I would go with Krems. He's just, Krems has a lot of experience. He's been over the last 3 months their third to second best player, and I think you know what you're gonna get with him if you want to go there, because then Jacasmo hasn't done great so far with the Fnatic roster, but yeah, and I think Jambo's a little bit too expensive, and I fear that he's not gonna get a good enough rating. For NIP, again, this is a team as well that you can double up in. I would double up in Eskapersky. I think Eskapersky is actually one of the best value full stop for this event, and one of the best players, honestly. So you could definitely go there, and I will pair him up with Ejirks at 198. I don't mind taking a punt in Shush or Rinko, but Ejirks at 198 has been their second best player over the last month, so definitely look into there. Stappy is fine at 181, but I wouldn't, I think there's better bronze players, and I think you can definitely pair up with NIP with like Skapersky and Ujurks, in my opinion. For FlyQuest, again, this team is like, I don't know which of the players is going to be the one to pop off most games, and I just don't see them beating teams by a lot, which means that they're not going to get a high enough rating. But if you want to go here, definitely look into JKS, Netic, and Regali. I would ignore Ines and Backside. But yeah, that is for FlyQuest. For Paravision, I think this might be the best value team. They have a chance. Well, they're one of the favorites to go through to the next stage. They've been good so far. I think players like James, Cello, and Nora are some of the best value in the game, or are the top 3 best value for money. So definitely look into James, Cello, and Nora. My favorite combination would probably be Nora and James, or if you have a little bit extra money laying around, Cello and James. Belchanak is not bad as a differential at 185, and I think while Cello has been the better player over the last 3 months, I think Belchanak has the highest upside. But I would just play it safe and pick Cello for right now. AW or AW is fine. 184 is not bad, but I think Noda's way better value, and I think you can find probably a better bronze player as well. NRG, again, Daps standing in for Nitro. Yeah, I just don't see this roster doing well. Bro's the only one that I would feel confident in popping off in a game. The rest are just NA farmers, honestly. Fluxo, again, don't see them making it to the next stage, but someone like Casey is fine at 181. Otherwise, probably ignore. Imperial is one of the teams that could be great value. I think all 5 players are honestly good value. I just don't know if they make it to the next stage. But I think if you want to pick into one of them to include better players around them, you can. I think my favorite option would for sure be Cello at 178. He's been their second best player over the last 3 months for Imperial, and he has a great roll and headshot machine, which triggers at about a 79%, like 80, 100, actually 100% of the time. So definitely look into Cello if you want to go with a bronze. He's my favorite bronze. Will not double up. That's too risky for me. But if you want to, definitely look into like Try or No Way, Binny, or Skulls. I mean, all 5 are options, but I think Cello is my favorite here. And for the rest, Rare Atom would not go here. Red Candice, if you want to go here, maybe Che Jesus, because he's been their best player recently, and he does quite well in the majors. I don't know why, or I don't know how, but he does do well in the majors. So Che Jesus would be the option here in Red Can if you want to go here, but don't. And then Hans as well, I would not pick into them. Maybe Cobra Serra, because he has some potential, I guess. But finally, we can look at my team, and this is gonna be my team for this stage. It's gonna be Cello, Brokey, Blame F, Jame, and Noda. So a 2-1-1-1. Decided to pick Blame F because I think he's gonna pop off. Now, the only risk that I have with him is them not making it to the next stage and him probably bombing out quite quickly. Probably not 0-3, but maybe like in a 1-3 fashion, or we just need Blame F to make it to the 5th game. Even if he doesn't get the padding points, which if he does, he's gonna be insane. But if he doesn't, I know that every game that he's in, he's gonna put up a 1.2 rating for sure, because he's just that type of player. I mean, he's a baiter almost, I would say. I also picked Brokey because I do believe in FaZe, and I do want to get some of that padding points. I think Brokey could be one of the highest performers. I just know that he enjoys these type of environments where he's gonna be able to farm these teams quite easily, and because of FaZe's ranking or seeding, they're the second seeded team. They're gonna get a lot of easy teams along the way to the qualifying to the next stage. Paravision, again, 2 great value players. I think Paravision will do fine, and the Huns might be the easiest game of the first round. So yeah, look into Paravision as well with Jame and Noda. I would definitely like to get Cello if I could, but unfortunately don't have enough money there. And then finally Cello, not Cielo, is there as well. He's just a cheap option. Again, headshot machine is really high trigger rate as well. And Rare Atom is actually not a bad first matchup. And Legacy have a chance. They always have a chance, but I think he's so cheap that he allows me to get 2 gold players alongside him. If I were to pick a different team, so I have a couple variations of this team. So for example, I could remove Brokey and Noda, and I could go for Eskapersky and Ujerks. This is another team as well. If I want to go more heavy into NIP, I can, and they are great value for money as well, these type of players. Another team as well that I looked into is taking out Blame F and Cello and Eskapersky, going with Brokey, Swisher, and I believe, is this correct? I don't believe this might be right. Actually, no. It'll be Cello and Noda. So this is another team to look into as well. I think all 5 of these are great performers. I think there's a more well-rounded team as well, if you want to go here. Yeah, so there's a couple teams that I'll take a look at, but for now, this is going to be my team. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I know this was a long video. I will put in time stamps for you to skip along. But yeah, this is going to be my team for now, and I hope you enjoyed the major. I definitely will be watching a couple of these games. But yeah, good luck, have fun,